It was 6:30 a.m. when the quiet streets of Atlanta, Georgia were broken by the sound of police sirens. A neighbor had called 911 after hearing screams and a loud crash from the house on Oakview Drive. The two-story home, painted a soft gray, stood still behind yellow tape by the time Detective Miles Harmon arrived on scene. Inside the garage was a black 2021 BMW. The driver's side window was smashed. Blood stained the passenger seat. A woman's body lay face down on the concrete floor beside the car. No shoes, broken nails, a single earring. Detective Harmon, tall and in his late 50s, rubbed his chin. "What do we know so far?" Officer Penley read from his notes. "Victim is Latoya Green, 33, lived here alone, owns a mobile hair salon. Neighbor said she heard shouting between two women around midnight. Sounded like a fight. Then silence. Then the crash." "What about the car?" Harmon asked, walking around the BMW. He noticed the license plate, GRL, Hustle, custom, clean, but the registration didn't match Latoya's name. "It's registered to Carmen Ellis," Penley said. "Lives in Marietta, same age as the victim. No criminal record. Car was never reported stolen." Harmon nodded. "So, why is Carmen's car at Latoya's house? And why is Latoya dead in the garage next to it?" He looked around the garage. There was a box of car cleaning supplies, some wigs, and a red folder taped to the wall. It had copies of insurance papers. Harmon pulled them out carefully. Inside there was a contract, signed by both women. Temporary ownership agreement. Latoya was driving the car while Carmen sorted out her life. Agreement ended 2 weeks ago. "Guess someone didn't want to give the car back," Penley said. "Or someone didn't like being ignored," Harmon replied. He looked at the folder again and saw something strange. A burned corner of another paper, half torn and crumpled. Harmon picked it up. It was part of an email printout. "You don't own me. It was never love. It was just a thrill." No sender name, just a timestamp, 11:17 p.m. Harmon bagged it. He was starting to feel something deeper behind this murder. Back outside, the sun was rising, lighting the white chalk outline of Latoya's body. "She wasn't killed for money," Harmon said softly. "This was personal." "Should we call Carmen in?" Penley asked. "Not yet," Harmon replied. "Let's learn more about their history first. Something tells me this car was just the start." As the garage door creaked closed behind them, Harmon knew one thing for sure. Someone had a secret they were willing to kill for. Detective Miles Harmon sat in his office at the downtown precinct, staring at a digital photo of Carmen Ellis. She had deep brown skin, honey blonde braids, and a piercing in her left eyebrow. Her Instagram, now bookmarked by Harmon's assistant, told a story of someone who loved nice things. Designer bags, champagne brunches, and long beach vacations. But buried between selfies and soft captions was something else. A photo from 6 months ago. Carmen, smiling in front of that same BMW. And standing next to her, with her hand around Carmen's waist, was Latoya Green, the victim. Harmon leaned back in his chair. "Run a background check on Carmen Ellis, financials, work, everything." An hour later, Carmen walked into the station, heels clicking on the tile. She wore a black tracksuit and gold hoops. No makeup. Still looked like trouble. "I didn't kill her," she said before anyone asked. "Miss Ellis, I'm Detective Harmon. Thank you for coming. Let's talk," he said, motioning to the chair in front of his desk. She sat down, arms crossed. "You knew Latoya Green?" "I did." "You were close?" "We were involved," Carmen said, eyes flickering to the side. "Off and on for 2 years." "Romantic?" Carmen hesitated. "Yes." "Tell me about the car." She sighed. "I gave it to her when I moved in with someone else last year. A man. I didn't want my new life to be messy." "Was she upset?" "At first, but we stayed friends. I told her she could keep the car until I figured things out. That was the deal. I asked for it back a couple weeks ago, and she said she was busy." "Did you argue recently?" "I mean, yeah," Carmen said, voice hardening. "I told her to return the car by June 1st. She ignored me. I drove down there 2 nights ago and told her I wasn't playing." "What time?" "About 10:45 p.m. You stayed long?" "No, I left around 11:20. She wasn't trying to listen. Harmon paused. And you never went inside the garage? No, I stayed by the front door. She was found dead inside that garage. Someone hit her in the head with a heavy object and dragged her body. Carmen blinked fast, then whispered, "She's dead? You didn't know?" "No," Carmen said, "I swear. I thought she was just ignoring me." Harmon studied her face. Was it shock or guilt? He opened a folder. We found an email. It said, "You don't own me." It was never love. It was just a thrill. Sent around 11:17 p.m. Ring any bells? Carmen clenched her jaw. I wrote that. I sent it while sitting in the car before driving home. She was pushing me, acting like I owed her something. Who's the man you moved in with? Carmen hesitated. His name's Eric Wilson. He's a car dealer, owns his own lot in Marietta. Did LaToya know him? A pause. They met once. She didn't like him. As Carmen left the station, Harmon turned to Officer Penley. Call Eric Wilson in. I want to know how deep this triangle goes. Back at the crime scene, a blunt tool, possibly a jack handle, had been wiped down and tossed behind the water heater. Fingerprints were found, but not LaToya's. Not Carmen's either. Looks like there's a third player in this story, Harmon said to himself. And they've been hiding behind the wheel the whole time. Detective Miles Harmon watched as Eric Wilson stepped into the interview room. Eric was tall, well-dressed, and confident. His brown leather shoes were polished, and he wore a silver watch that probably cost more than Harmon's monthly salary. He sat down across from the detective and smiled, cool and calm. So, Harmon began, opening his notepad, "You're the boyfriend." Eric nodded. "That's what Carmen tells people. You own Wilson Auto?" Yeah, 3 years now. Used to be a salesman. Saved up, started my own lot in Marietta. Tell me about LaToya Green. Eric leaned back. I didn't really know her. Met her once. Carmen used to mess with her. That was over before I came around. She ever contact you? Nope, I stayed out of all that girl drama. Harmon slid a photo across the table. It showed LaToya and Carmen, laughing, holding wine glasses in the BMW. You sure you weren't involved in the middle of this? Eric looked down at the photo. Like I said, I met her once. Harmon leaned in. Where were you the night LaToya died? At home? With Carmen? She says she left your place around 10:15 p.m. to talk to LaToya. Said she came back after 11:30. Eric scratched his beard. That's right, she was mad when she got back. Said LaToya was acting crazy. Did she tell you what they argued about? The car, Eric said. Always the damn car. Harmon scribbled something down. When was the last time you personally saw LaToya? Months ago. Carmen invited her to some dinner thing. I was just polite. Harmon stood up, walked to a drawer, and returned with a small Ziploc bag. Inside was a silver button, ripped from a blazer, found near LaToya's body. This yours? He asked. Eric frowned, studying the button. Looks like something off my jacket, but I don't know how it ended up there. You have a jacket missing a button? Eric didn't answer right away. Mind if we check your house? Harmon asked, just to be sure. Eric shifted in his seat. You got a warrant? Not yet. Well, get one. Harmon knew when someone was hiding something. Eric wasn't just defensive, he was nervous. Back at headquarters, Harmon ordered a background sweep. Turns out, Eric once dated LaToya, briefly, before she got involved with Carmen. The relationship ended badly. Police were even called once after LaToya keyed a car outside his shop. No charges were filed, but the rage was documented. Now we've got a square, not a triangle, Harmon muttered. LaToya was with both of them. Then they got together and left her out. Forensics came in with another report. That burned corner of paper in the garage, the backside had a name scribbled in pen. E. Wilson. Now we're cooking, Harmon said. Later that evening, the lab confirmed something else. The fingerprints on the jack handle matched none of the 3 known people. But there was a partial palm print on the inside of the garage door, and it was fresh. Looks like someone else was there, hiding, Harmon whispered. Someone no one had mentioned. Someone who had a reason to want LaToya dead. Detective Miles Harmon was back at the scene of the crime on Oakview Drive. He He stood in the garage staring at the dried blood, the BMW, and the corner behind the water heater where the murder weapon had been found. Something still felt off. He called over the forensics tech, Tamara Hill. "You said the palm print wasn't from Carmen, Eric, or LaToya?" Tamara nodded. "Correct. It's a partial, but it's from a woman, not a match to anyone in our system." "Could someone else have been in here that night, maybe before the fight?" Tamara tilted her head. "Actually, the neighbor across the street just dropped something off. Said it was from his security camera. Caught some movement across the street late that night." Harmon took the flash drive and popped it into his laptop. The footage wasn't clear, but it showed someone, a woman, walking up the driveway toward LaToya's house at 10:58 p.m. She wore a hoodie and carried a small duffel bag. She didn't use the front door. She went around the side. Harmon paused the video. "That's not Carmen," he said aloud. "Too short." Back at the precinct, Harmon made a decision. He called Jenna Moore, LaToya's best friend, the one who used to work at the same salon. Jenna arrived looking shaken. "I saw the news," she said. "I can't believe she's gone." "Did LaToya ever mention someone named Zaria?" Harmon asked. Jenna's eyes widened. "Yeah, Zaria Summers. She used to date Carmen before LaToya did. It got ugly." "Ugly how?" "She showed up at the salon once, screaming about how Carmen left her for LaToya. Said she'd burn it all down." "Where can I find Zaria?" Jenna swallowed. "She moved to East Point, still does nails from her apartment. Why?" Harmon showed her the still image from the security footage. Jenna covered her mouth. "That's her. That's Zaria." Later that afternoon, Harmon knocked on the door of a small unit in East Point. Zaria answered, confused and barefoot, holding a phone in her hand. "You Zaria Summers?" Harmon asked. "Yeah, why?" "We need to talk about LaToya Green." Zaria flinched. "I don't know anything about that." "You were seen outside her house the night she was murdered." "I didn't kill her," Zaria shouted. "I just wanted to talk." "Talk about what?" "She took everything from me. Carmen left me like I was nothing. Then LaToya started flashing that car like it was hers. That BMW was mine too. Carmen bought it while we were still together." "So you went there to confront her?" Zaria's eyes filled with tears. "I just wanted her to admit it, that she knew she stole her from me. But when I got there, I saw Carmen's car outside. I waited." "For how long?" "A while. I saw them arguing at the door. Then Carmen left. I went around the back and knocked, but no one answered. I swear I never went inside." "Did you hear anything?" Zaria looked away. "I heard a crash, like metal falling. Then I panicked and left." Back at the station, Harmon reviewed the timeline. Carmen arrives at 10:45 p.m. Email is sent at 11:17 p.m. Crash sound is heard around 11:30 p.m. Zaria seen approaching around 10:58 p.m. Zaria was present but didn't seem violent. But something didn't add up. If Zaria didn't go in, who struck LaToya? Just then, a junior officer ran in. "Detective Harmon, we've got something." He handed over cell phone data from LaToya's phone. The last call she made wasn't to Carmen or Eric. It was to a contact saved as Lila Tolles. Harmon's eyes narrowed. "Who the hell is Lila?" The officer hesitated. "We traced the number. It belongs to Lila Patterson." "Relation?" "She's Carmen's younger sister." Harmon leaned back in his chair. Now it made sense. The missing piece had just rolled into place. Detective Miles Harmon arrived at the red brick duplex on Edgewater Lane, where Lila Patterson lived. It was a quiet street, too quiet. He rang the bell. Lila opened the door with a smile that faded the moment she saw his badge. "I'm Detective Harmon. Mind if we talk?" She hesitated. "What's this about?" "LaToya Green. Lila, your number was the last call from her phone the night she died." Lila blinked. "Oh, I didn't know she died. Is that true?" She didn't answer. "Mind if I come in?" Lila stepped aside. The apartment smelled like lemon polish. Everything was neat, but the tension in the room was thick. Harmon sat across from her. "What did LaToya want that night?" he asked. Lila rubbed her hands. She wanted to return the car. She said she was done with Carmen and didn't want the car hanging over her head anymore. That doesn't match what Carmen told me. Well, Carmen lies, Lila said quickly. Harmon leaned in. Tell me what happened, the truth. Lila exhaled. Fine, I'll tell you what no one else will. She got up, walked to a drawer, and pulled out a small pink notebook. It had LaToya's name scribbled on the cover. She gave me this the day before she died, said if anything happened to her, I should give it to the police. Harmon opened it carefully. Inside were handwritten pages, notes about Carmen, about the car, about threats. On the second page, LaToya had written, if anything happens to me, look at Eric and Carmen. But Lila knows the whole story. Harmon looked up. She trusted you? Lila nodded. She came to me in secret, said Carmen wanted the car back because Eric was getting nervous. It turns out Eric never transferred the title. The car was still legally his. So why would LaToya return it now? She had found out that Carmen and Eric were planning to flip the car, sell it under the table, even though she was still driving it. She felt betrayed, said she had recordings. Recordings? Lila got up again, walked to her room and returned with a USB drive. She gave me this too. Back at the station, Harmon plugged in the drive. There were 3 audio files. He clicked the first one. Carmen's voice. You don't get to control me, LaToya. That car was never yours. Eric gave it to me. You just drove it. LaToya. You're both lying snakes. If anything happens to me, everyone's gonna know. In the background, another voice, Eric's, could be heard saying, let her run her mouth, she won't be around long enough to ruin us. Harmon paused the recording. The tone of Eric's voice wasn't just angry, it was cold, calculated. This wasn't just jealousy or pride anymore, it was a setup. That night, Harmon filed an emergency request for Eric's financial records. They showed something interesting. Eric had been behind on his business loans, and the BMW was listed as collateral. If LaToya took the car back to court, it would expose the fraud. Worse, if she had recordings like this, Eric and Carmen could lose everything. The motive wasn't just personal, it was business. Carmen had a reason to want her gone. Eric had the most to lose. And Lila? She was caught in the middle. Then came the final twist of the night. A forensics update, the faint DNA found on the jack handle, mixed in with LaToya's blood, belonged to a female sibling of Carmen. Harmon's phone buzzed. It was the lab. You were right, they said. We ran the DNA match again. It's not Carmen's. It's Lila's. Harmon looked at the USB again. She gave him the recordings, the notebook. Why would someone hand over evidence pointing back to herself? Unless she was setting someone else up. Detective Miles Harmon sat alone in the dim light of his office, staring at the USB drive and LaToya's notebook. Everything pointed to Lila Patterson, but something didn't sit right. Why would a killer hand over the only evidence that could convict them? He called in Tamara Hill from forensics again. Run that DNA sample one more time, he said. I want absolute confirmation it's Lila. She raised an eyebrow. You think she planted it? I think someone wants me to believe she did. Later that morning, Harmon walked into the small conference room where Lila was waiting. She looked nervous but calm. Lila, he began. I got the notebook. I got the USB. I listened to the recordings. She nodded slowly. I told you the truth. Then explain this, he said, sliding a paper across the table. It was the lab report showing her DNA on the murder weapon. Lila's hands began to shake. No, that's not possible. It's more than possible. It's confirmed. She looked up, panicked. I swear to you, I never touched that thing. Then someone's trying to frame you. Lila buried her face in her hands. Carmen, she whispered. It has to be Carmen. Why? Lila looked up, tears in her eyes. Because I helped her once, months ago. She asked me to store something for her. A tool bag. Said Eric might look through her trunk and she didn't want questions. You kept it? I put it in my garage and forgot all about it. Harmon stood. Show me. In Lila's garage, tucked behind a box of winter coats, was a red and black tool bag. Inside was a matching car jack, nearly identical to the one found at the scene, but this one was clean. And taped to the bottom? A torn piece of cloth with a smear of dried blood. I didn't know that was there, Lila said, backing away. Harmon bagged the evidence. You just helped me more than you know. Back at the precinct, Harmon finally saw the full picture. Carmen had been setting up her sister from the start. She knew Lila cared about LaToya. She knew Lila would try to protect her. So she asked her to hold something and then use the twin tool to commit the murder. After killing LaToya, she planted traces of Lila's DNA from the gloves she left behind in the bag. She emailed from LaToya's phone to make it look like a breakup. She waited for Zaria to show up just to add confusion. Then she walked away, clean. But Harmon had one final move. He called Carmen in for a follow-up. She arrived with her usual confidence, dressed sharp, sunglasses on. You said LaToya sent that email at 11:17, right? Harmon asked casually. Carmen nodded. Yes, she told me she was done. He smiled. Funny, for someone who just got dumped, you didn't seem too upset. I already moved on. He nodded again. Sure, except the forensics team just found a second jack, identical to the murder weapon. And guess where it came from? She said nothing. And it had your prints, on the handle, under the tape. Carmen's lips parted slightly. Game's over, Harmon said. You framed your own sister to get away with murder. She sat back in the chair. You think you know everything. I know enough, he replied, but Carmen only smiled. Then let me tell you something you don't know. She leaned in and whispered, I wasn't alone that night. Detective Miles Harmon leaned forward. You weren't alone? Carmen crossed her legs, calm as ever. That's right. I didn't kill LaToya. But you admitted to framing your sister. I said I helped cover it, but the actual killing, that was someone else. Harmon felt a chill. Who? Carmen smirked. Eric. Harmon stood still for a second, processing her words. Your husband? Carmen shrugged. Ex-husband. We split 2 weeks after LaToya died. You think that's a coincidence? He stormed out of the room and called in a warrant. If Eric Owens was the true killer, there had to be more. Back at Eric's auto garage, detectives searched the back office. Behind a locked cabinet, they found a stash of documents, titles of multiple cars, insurance claims, and a forged sale record for LaToya's BMW. He'd sold the car 3 days after her death under a fake name. Fraud. And likely murder. But that wasn't all. Tucked in the bottom drawer was a burnt corner of LaToya's old diary, ripped out from the same notebook Lila gave Harmon. The page was half burnt, but one line was still visible. Eric told me to meet him behind the shop. I think Carmen doesn't know. Harmon raced back to the station. Eric was brought in under suspicion of fraud, but now it was much more. Inside the interrogation room, Eric stared at the table, calm, quiet. Eric, I'm going to give you a chance to explain, Harmon said, because your prints are on the fake title. Your emails link to the buyer, and LaToya's note places you at the scene. Eric smirked. You think you're smart. No, I think LaToya was smarter. She recorded more than one file. Harmon dropped a second USB stick onto the table. You recognize this? Eric didn't answer. It's a backup LaToya made on her cloud. She recorded your whole conversation. He pressed play. LaToya's voice. Why did you lie to Carmen? You said the car was mine. Eric's voice. I had to. She thought I was giving it to her, but I needed the car for the loan. LaToya. If this gets out, I'll take both of you down. Eric. Then you better stay quiet. Or disappear. Eric stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Tell me what happened, Harmon pressed. Eric sighed. She came to the shop that night. She was shouting. She found out I forged her signature and took out a title loan using the car. I told her I'd fix it. But she didn't believe you. He shook his head. She said she was going to the police, that I'd go down for fraud. So you panicked. I hit her once, Eric said quietly. Just once. I didn't mean to kill her, but when she dropped, I thought, maybe it was better this way. And Carmen helped you clean it up? Eric nodded. She said we needed a story, that we could frame Lila if things got messy. Carmen was arrested immediately for conspiracy to commit murder and obstruction of justice. Eric was charged with second-degree murder, fraud, and evidence tampering. As for Lila, she was released and cleared. Her only crime had been trusting the wrong people. And Detective Harmon? He stood outside the courthouse days later as reporters gathered. Was it about the car? One asked. No, Harmon said. It was never about the car. It was about lies, money, and desperation. The car was just the excuse. Before leaving, he dropped LaToya's notebook off at her mother's house. Inside was a photo of LaToya smiling, happy, long before the lies and betrayal. Your daughter saved herself, Harmon said gently. Even in death, she spoke loud enough to be heard. The case was closed, but the echo of what happened, betrayal, revenge, and murder, would haunt that town for years to come.